Algolia, and I'm a software engineer in the Algolia Recommend team. I'll start by letting you know that I will be available in the chat during this presentation to answer any of your questions, so feel free to reach out. Welcome to Recommend Guide Hub. Sometimes building a great e-commerce experience can be quite a challenging task. In this presentation, we'll see how a new and better onboarding experience for Algolia Recommend can give you the tools and knowledge needed to craft your unique discovery experience. But let's start with a quick refresher. What is Algolia Recommend? We know that search is a foundational block in the process of building a great e-commerce experience. In many cases, it can be the very beginning of an end user's journey. But this journey doesn't stop when they hit a search result. It can be transformed into a discovery experience, where the users start exploring your inventory through navigation and recommendations. For example, did a user find their desired shirt for this fall? You can recommend some jewelry that is the perfect match. Or perhaps they found a pair of sneakers, but it turns out that they are out of stock. You can recommend similar pairs. Algolia Recommend is a great way to create these powerful discovery experiences by complementing search and enabling you to design and develop a user experience that is tailored to your needs. So how can you craft a discovery experience powered by Algolia Recommend? Recommend is a powerful and very complex product. So when you first start interacting with it and trying to figure out how to implement it in your app, it may seem a bit confusing, kind of like there is a missing step. You first land on the dashboard where you find all the tools you need that are already laid out for you, but where do you start? Perhaps you jump into the docs and figure it out and gather the insights that you need to start using all those tools. But in the end, how can you put it all together and build your end product? It's kind of like going to IKEA, picking out a piece of furniture that you want, start opening the packages, and you don't know how to get from a pile of nails and screwdrivers to that nice cabinet that you want for the living room. So how can we bridge this gap between what you want to build and how you can use Algolia Recommend to build it? So we came up with two hypotheses. At first, we thought that it's an issue that rises from a technical standpoint. Maybe we are not correctly explaining the technical and foundational concepts that are behind Recommend. And if this is the case, how could we do this better? Maybe we could improve our docs and provide detailed technical guides exploring concepts such as recommend score machine learning models or advanced features such as recommend rules. Or we could develop various tutorials, both on the dashboard configurations as well as deep dives into recommend client implementations. Or we could completely switch the perspective and start with the end result in mind. So we started by asking ourselves, what if we actually are not showing you how you can use our product to achieve your desired interfaces? This means that we should take a step back from the docs and dashboard altogether and start directly at the beginning of an engineer's journey. We could develop detailed guides focused on specific experiences that you could build and guide you through the process of getting there. After all, it boils down to the difference between here is a collection of powerful tools that you might need to build your product, and what is your end product vision and how can we help you build it? Now, in retrospect, the answer looks pretty obvious. We just reverse the flow. We meet you, our builders, where you are, and we work our way backwards from there. Now, with this new perspective in mind, from an UX point of view, if we are to structure an e-commerce experience that involves recommendations, we can see it breaks down into a few core patterns and pages, such as a cart page or a product details page. And when we look closely on one of those pages, let's take, for example, a product details page, we can see it consists of specific blocks of recommended products, like alternative items or complementary items that are generated from core recommendation models. So this is where Algolia Recommend comes into play. Now we can take it even further and think of how we can improve those recommendations by curating them with filters or rules. Remember that out of stock example? We can filter it out of the recommendations blocks altogether. So in a nutshell, what we could do is help you by giving you the mental model that you need in order to develop your core discovery experiences with Recommend. Now, let's start putting it all together and look a bit on what's behind those new guides that I keep hinting at. Or how did we end up translating this mental model? So we can start with our main building blocks, which are the foundational technical concepts that make up Recommend, such as our machine learning models or the events that we use to train them. Now we also know what are our users' most frequently asked questions, such as what is a fallback strategy or how often are the models being trained. And finally, we know what we want to achieve. We know our targets. We want an interactive, step-by-step set of guides that enables you to build a unique user experience. Perfect. Now, what came out after connecting those three blocks? A new and better onboarding experience for our new and existing customers. The Recommend Guide Hub, a hub that exhibits a collection of step-by-step guides based on common e-commerce scenarios that give you the insights needed to use the tools provided by Algolia Recommend so you can craft the perfect discovery experience. So let's take a look at them and see how they actually look like. So let's start directly from the Recommend dashboard. I can see here that I have a new section available for me, the Learn section, which takes me directly to the new Guides hub. Now, on the overview page, I can see here that I have a few categories of guides. I can take a deeper dive into the foundational concepts that make a Recommend by going into the core models guide, or I can directly dive into the scenario-based guides. So let's go into the e-commerce guides. I can see here a collection of all the scenarios that are available for e-commerce. I can perhaps start building a landing page or maybe a product details page. Let's start by creating a cart page. Now I can see here a nicely illustrated preview of what I am about to build, as well as some information and some key learnings that I will get from following this guide, such as what is a related product model or what are events and how is Algolia Recommend using them. So let's start the guide. Now we've entered the step-by-step guide. You can see here an overview of the scenario that I want to build, the cart page, as well as some more information into the recommend blocks that I will need for this scenario, like the complementary items, all the alternative items blocks, as well as some information about the model that is behind each of those recommended blocks. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, I saw what I want to build and what recommendation models I will need to train. So let's see what are my prerequisites, what I need to enable recommend. For starters, I will need a catalog or an index where I can keep all of my products. And I have more information here on how to structure my data and what is an index. I also know that I will need events in order to start training my recommend models. So I have here all the information needed about events and how we are going to use them and how many we need and what types do we need to enable my models. Okay, now I reached the implementation stage. Now I saw what I want to build. I saw my prerequisites and what I will need in order to enable recommend and to train my models. I perhaps got them up and running. Now I got finally to the hands-on stuff, how I'm going to implement this in my own app. I can see here a high-level overview of how my code should look like for this specific scenario and what recommend components I will need from the recommend libraries, as well as some information on how I can customize them in order to make them in line with my own branding. Now, and that was pretty much it. A quick guide that showed me how to build a cart page. Now, I can go a bit further now and enhance those models by adding rules or perhaps filters and even fallback strategies. So let's take a hypothetical scenario and let's say that we want to promote certain products from our catalog. Now, recommend rules can help me do exactly that. So let's add some rules for my recommend blocks. Now here I can emulate a bit the behavior of recommend rules. I can choose rule scenarios for each of the recommend blocks that I have in my cart page. So let's start at first with the complementary items. I can see here that I have a lot of Zara products. So maybe I want to promote products from a different brand, let's say Mango. So I can apply a rule that says to boost the Mango skirt up to the first position. Now I can combine this with a different rule. Let's say that I'm also running a promotion on Fossil watches. So I want them to be pretty visible within my blocks. So I can pin this Fossil watch into the second position. Now let's also have a look at the alternative items block. I can still see that I have a lot of Zara jewelry products and maybe their inventory will start to run low. So I can choose a rule that says to bury this jewelry in order to expose more of my catalog. Now I can keep playing around with this and add other rules depending on my business needs, or I can delete them. But I'm pretty happy with the result that I have here now. So I can go ahead and maybe choose another improvement, like a fallback strategy. Or if I'm completely happy and this is sufficient for my needs for now, I can go back into the dashboard and start building my own real life models for my own real life card page. So we saw how you can better understand and use recommend to design and develop your desired experience for your product. But I'm more curious to see what you will build next with Algolia Recommend. The Guides Hub can already be accessed through the Recommend dashboards and are available for everybody. So feel free to give it a spin and let us know all of your thoughts and feedback. Thank you for your question. Thank you for all of your attention. Feel free to reach out and ask any questions in the chat.